Welcome back to the channel, and this, my Troopy off-road preparation video. I like to travel to wild places, to feel connected with nature, and I need a vehicle capable of getting me there and back safely, on all terrains and in all weather conditions. In this video, I'll explain my reasons for choosing the Land Cruiser 78, and highlight the suspension and drivetrain modifications, as well as performance enhancements and other upgrades I've made so far. In the next video, coming soon, I'll deal specifically with my choices and reasoning behind the overlanding setup, the camping equipment I carry for sleeping, cooking, hygiene, safety and recovery. Well, my sweaty face and my soaking wet t-shirt is a pretty good indication of how hot it is today. All of this just from getting in and out of the vehicle, repositioning the camera for the drive-in shots. So before I get started, I'm going to freshen myself up, change my t-shirt, and then we're going to crack on with a walk around of the vehicle itself, a bit of a description about what it is and what I've done to it and where I got it done. Let's begin at the front of the vehicle and work towards the back. So what we're looking at here is a 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser 78, affectionately known as a troop carrier. And these are the weapon of choice for Australian overlanders, and anywhere in Europe and beyond they can get their hands on them. I picked this up in the December of 2024, and it's taken about a year to get it to where it is now. Unlike Defenders, where in the UK parts are available off the shelf really quickly, when it comes to these beasties, you've got to plan a little bit ahead and order things from Australia, South Africa, a little bit in advance with a little bit of planning. But having said that, there are some UK suppliers of parts for these, and often you'll find that things that you're looking for are actually in stock. This is the facelift model, which means it's got the newer front end, and I think it's a bit of a Marmite situation. You either love it or hate it, and it's growing on me, I have to say. I do like the classic look of the older front end. However, this does bring it a little bit up to date. There's some technical advances in terms of airflow over the intercooler. Bearing in mind there's a big V8 4.5 litre diesel engine in there. Good cooling is quite important. So the headlights are a really prominent feature of the front end, and then I've gone and added a whole lot more. Spotlights, a light bar, fog lights, DRLs, and up on the roof rack a second, even bigger light bar and a couple of ditch lights. Benefit of putting ditch lights up there is they're going to throw the light a little bit further, because the option of putting them down here with the bulge in the bonnet doesn't really work for me from an aesthetic point of view, and also a practical point of view. I don't think it quite works, but up there I think it'll look good and it should work very, very well as well. Now then, I can't turn those on and off. Equally, I can't turn these other lights that I've fitted on the rear on and off either. Now these have got a white DRL function and also an orange DRL function, as well as a spotlight. So, you know, I can consider these for illumination at the rear when I'm out camping and reversing the vehicle, manoeuvring it off-road, and slightly more subdued light with the DRL lights on at night. And with the orange, then that'll help to deter the midges. Now, why can't I show them working? Well, I'm working on a little project to install a battery pack up here on the roof rack, and that will have some lithium-ion batteries in there, about 75 amp hour. They'll be recharged from the solar panels on top of the roof tent, so there'll be a solar controller in there. There's also going to be a little fan in there, because I'm putting them in a fabricated black plastic enclosure that's going to get pretty hot. So the fan will come on when the temperature goes up above 30 degrees, and it'll just keep some airflow over the whole thing, keep it cool and keep it protected. Now, the clever part, I'm going to have in there one of these natty little remote control switch systems supplied by a company, in this case called Colite. I think Auxbeam and some other people do them as well. So I can operate these roof lights from either inside the cab when I'm driving, there's a magnet on the back so it'll stick anywhere, or inside the roof tent, or inside the vehicle if I'm sleeping in there. It'll operate these lights from apparently 50 metres away from the vehicle, so that's quite a handy function. The benefit of having the power and all the switching and wiring remote from the main battery system or the auxiliary battery is that I don't have to drill any holes in the roof, and that'll be really good. I'm going to put an Anderson connector on the back, and I'm going to be able to plug those auxiliary batteries up on the roof into my power bank to be able to charge it when I'm parked up somewhere on a sunny day. So not only can I charge it fairly rapidly when I'm driving, but I should also, with about 240 watts of solar on the roof, I should be able to charge my power banks pretty quickly when I'm stationary as well. So there you go, I've given you an introduction into what's going on with these lights fitted onto the roof rack system, and I'm going to make that the subject of a separate video and demonstrate it more clearly when it's up and running in hopefully just a few weeks' time. So all in all, I've got quite a dazzling light display. The lights that are fitted within the bull bar, they are supplied by Ironman, and they come as a part of the kit that also includes the winch. I like the way that that's hidden away underneath there. See if you can work out for yourself why I like that feature when I'm driving along. I think that's pretty useful. Now, I've also got the number plate mounted on magnets so I can take it off altogether. And again, see if you can guess why I like that feature. So far I haven't had to use the winch in anger, however I have recovered a vehicle that slipped off the road in heavy snow in France earlier in the year. So it's already proven itself to be a very useful thing to have. Certainly that family in France in the middle of the night were very pleased that I came along. Now the vehicle has had a 2-inch lift. The springs, they used to be a very bright green colour, Ironman club colours. Both the shocks and the springs, both supplied by Ironman and ably installed up in Southport by a company called West Coast 4x4, whom I strongly recommend. They've done a few jobs for me now. Obviously the lift, they fitted the winch bumper on the front. They also supplied a rather nice stainless steel, pretty much straight through exhaust system, and I'll play you that in a moment. I'll put the camera on and fire the engine up so you can see just how wonderful that sounds when it's being played by a 4.5 litre V8 diesel engine. They fitted a heavy duty clutch for me. They also carried out a 5th gear upgrade, and what that does, drops the RPM by about 600 revs at cruising speed in 5th, and it just helps to give you a little bit of fuel economy back. When I got the vehicle, one of the first things that I did was spray the underneath with Lanagard, and that's been repeated 2 or 3 times since. You know, the whole point of me buying a brand new 4-wheel drive vehicle was that I wanted something that would probably see me out, in fairness. A vehicle that wasn't going to rust through really quickly. Started from an A1 condition. Also brand new engine that's set to do hundreds of thousands of miles before it starts to give me any jip. Now I've moved around the back. I've got a steel bumper on the back as well, replacing the original item, which are a little bit flimsy. Now this one came from 4x4 Centre in the Netherlands, but the manufacturer of these is based in South Africa. So these are supplied by Gobi-X. You have the option of 2 swing arms, one for the spare wheel on the offside, and you can fit another one on the near side, and that's typically used to carry extra jerry cans. Because these vehicles have 2 90 litre fuel tanks as standard, one at the rear there and another one sort of nicely positioned midway down the vehicle, giving me 180 litres of fuel capacity in total. I don't much see the need to carry jerry cans at this time, not for Europe and Eastern Europe and trips down to Morocco and things like that. I think 180 litres will do me fine. Now, I've tested that on a trip to Poland, and 180 litres quite comfortably got me from the UK to the Polish border, and that's good because the cost of fuel in the Netherlands and Germany, although it's always been high, it's astronomical right now, whereas in Poland the fuel is altogether cheaper. Same applies if you're travelling through Europe. If you get to Luxembourg, then you can refuel there more cheaply and before you head down to the Alps. And 180 litres of fuel filled up in Luxembourg will get me pretty much all the way down to the Alps and back to Luxembourg on the way home. Equally, 180 litres will get me through France into Spain, where again the cost of diesel is considerably less. So I'm pretty happy that I've got those long range tanks fitted as standard, as opposed to the Defender that I used to take into Europe with just a 65 litre fuel capacity. So anyway, I've rambled on a great deal about that, haven't I? Now, I took the vehicle back to West Coast 4x4 not too long ago, and I don't know whether you'll be able to see, when it was in for the clutch, exhaust and the fifth gear upgrade, I also had the rear suspension replaced with parabolics. I didn't fully allow for the weight that I was going to be fitting on the vehicle, so it went back to them and they've installed, I don't know if you can see there, they've installed some airbags for me. So why did I do that rather than just fit another leaf in the leaf springs? Well, the benefit of those is that as I put more weight on or take weight off the vehicle, then they become adjustable. They're also adjustable if I want a little bit of leveling when I'm camping, which is quite good. But because I fit sometimes a swing away arm on the back with an off-road motorcycle on there, putting weight all the way back like that on top of the rear fuel tank being filled with 90 kilograms of diesel, the ability to just increase the pressure just there with those Schrader valves. All I need to do is connect my onboard ARB air compressor and I can just give the vehicle a little bit of a lift, or I can lower it down. So I went for that option rather than going with the more permanent additional leaf spring. Then the final job that was done for me by West Coast was they fitted the diff lock for me. I just went with a 1 in the rear. It's already proved its worth, getting up that slippery slope on the way up to where I am now. Perhaps later on I'll go for a front diff lock as well, but for the time being that rear diff lock helps a great deal. Now, what can I tell you about West Coast? From an engineering perspective, from the point of view of attention to detail and care for what they do, they're really spot on. Every bolt they remove is always replaced with some copper slip applied to it, so that gives you a good feel. You see the torque wrench in play all of the time. There's tie wraps used in all of the right places whenever they're fitting cables and wires and things, and they're always nicely trimmed. They're not just pulled up and left long, and I like that. So big up for West Coast. West Coast 4x4 also supplied these rather sexy braid alloy wheels. They're wider than the original steel fitments. They take 285 tyres. I'm using the KO2s. How I wish the KO3s were available. I would definitely have gone with those. The steel wheels that I took off, I'm planning to get those banded and put some mud terrains on those so I can switch them out whenever I feel the need to have something a bit more aggressive if I'm going on a trip where I know traction is going to be a concern. Now, moving forward, next job on the horizon will be to get rid of the stock snorkel. I call it a snorkel. It's a raised air intake. I think if we got into really deep water, there's a high chance that that's going to leak water into the induction system, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go with one of the Safari snorkels. It'll seal the system completely, so wading won't be a problem, and at the same time I'm going to upgrade the airbox as well. I found a company in Australia called HD, I think, HD something, and they're going to supply that for me, so that'll be great. Now, while I've got the camera aimed at those additional lights fitted on the roof rack there, then you can't fail to miss that Escapade supplied water tank. It's great that it's black, because the 33 litres of water capacity that it has will be heated on a hot sunny day like this. It's got a retractable hose built into it, it's got a pump built into it, so all I need to do is run a cable down to my cigarette lighter and I've got hot water for a shower. 33 litres is pretty good capacity, to be fair. In the winter, just empty it or take it off completely. It's fitted up there and locked in position, so you need a key to be able to remove it. I've used that a few times and it is really very effective. Up on the roof, while I've got the camera aimed up there, there's an Escapade 270 awning. It's got blackout material, so on a day like this is really useful, so you get 100% shade. And also an Escapade Horizon roof tent, and I'll be opening that a bit later as well. Now, turning to the inside of the vehicle, and we're just going to focus on vehicle related things rather than camping related things at this stage. A couple of upgrades in here that are worth a mention. I retained the original seats and resisted the urge to change them to something slightly more professional, such as the Shieldman seats. I believe they're very, very good, but the primary reason why I didn't want to go with those is because they sit a little bit higher, and that means that they would be above my sleeping platform. Because I get into the bed inside from in the cab just by removing those headrests, which pop out really, really easy. It's very simple for me to kneel on the seat, hoist myself into the bed, and then equally important, if I need to move in the middle of the night in a hurry for some reason, if I'm disturbed, then it's dead easy to slip into the driver's seat, turn the key, fire the beast up and hit the road and avoid whatever the disturbance was that woke me from my sleep. What's worth a mention is these troop carriers, they generally come with a 3/4 seat on the passenger side. At least the left-hand drive models do. I don't know how that works in Australia. Maybe it's the same but different. I don't know. And although there's some benefits to that 3/4 bench seat, there are some disadvantages as well. They don't recline beyond a certain point, and my missus, because she's much smaller than me, she likes to slide the seat forward and recline it sometimes when we're on long trips. So it's better from that perspective. Also, that the space that's now been created in between the two seats means that at some point I can build in some extra storage. A little cubby box with an armrest would be quite handy, perhaps with a lock on. I can keep items like passports and other important pieces of paper and documentation, keep them tucked in there. And so I obtained what was originally a driver's seat from another troop carrier owner. He had upgraded his seats to the Shieldman seats, and this one was available because it was excess to requirements. It's brown in colour, no great problem, because I got these rather cool seat covers from a company in South Africa called Tougher, and I'm going to give them a big up because I ordered them from them on their website. They dispatched them on the Monday and I had them on the Friday. In fact, it may have even been quicker than that. Certainly it was only a couple of days before I had them, and they fitted perfectly, even though technically my passenger seat is actually a driver's seat. There's a subtle difference, but nonetheless the seat covers fitted perfectly. The troop carrier headrests are slightly smaller than the 79 series headrests, and the reason that they probably fit in, the reason why they probably provide them with a smaller headrest is when you're the driver of a left-hand drive one of these, or a right-hand drive for that matter, seeing behind you at T-junctions is quite difficult. If the headrest was too high, I wouldn't be able to turn my neck and be able to see through that window there. But with the lower headrest and me avoiding putting cabinetry there means that when I'm driving, particularly in Europe, but even in the UK, some T-junctions, it can be quite an acute angle, and being able to see for the sake of safety is quite important to me. Now, big difference between these and Defenders is the body's all steel, which is great because now I've discovered all kinds of ways in which I can carry and mount a variety of different accessories, all using magnets. So you can say I've got some security lights that are just magnetically stuck on that side, so that's the explanation what they are. There's that controller I was talking about for the extra lights, just magnets up there. Extra lighting, just stuck on there with magnets. And I've got that elasticated system up there, and you may be wondering what that is. Well, it's a bit of a clothesline for when I get into bed. I've got somewhere where I can keep clothes up high. They can air if they need to, if it's that type of a garment, but its main thing is they're just off my bed, off my sleeping platform, and that's where they need to be. Useful place to keep other little accessories as well, like hats and gloves. And I've got these other lights here, and you'll see those in the camping segment shortly, because what they do is they just snap onto the edge of the awning, so that's pretty handy. Now, going back to vehicle and modifications, I've got a quad lock fitted over there for my mobile phone, so that's quite a useful thing. Above it, I've got a cheap and cheerful Apple CarPlay plug and play system that you just vacuum onto the window with a suction cup, plug it into your head unit. It syncs with the Bluetooth on your phone, so now I've got a decent satellite navigation display, so that's works in the short term. In the long term, the thing to do is to take this out and put a much bigger head unit in there with the whole built-in Apple CarPlay and other functionality. So that's a job for the future. Now, while we've got the camera pointed there, you'll see this here, a uni-chip system, and it's got 5 different performance levels. So it's got a security level that acts like an immobilizer, and then it's got standard performance. It's got a fuel economy mode, a towing mode, and a hooligan mode. I like that hooligan mode. It sounds awesome when you're driving along the road, and if you're not a bit gentle with it, it's not overly detrimental to the fuel economy either. But the settings can be changed on the fly, so if you're going along in economy mode and you feel the need to show off at the lights, you can just flick it into hooligan mode and you're away. I added an extension on the gear knob here, on the gear stick here. It's about 50mm long, that's all, but it just puts the pudding starer handle at a comfortable grip. I'm long in the leg, so I have the seat all the way back, and now the hand rests on there when I'm driving, and it's just comfortable for changing gears. It's a long movement, a bit agricultural, but I kind of like that. There you go. These seat covers, going back to them, from Tougher, they've got some additional pockets in, so I've got a little CB radio there. There's a pocket on the front with a zip on it, and there's some additional pockets on the rear of the thing as well. So as well as giving me rougher, tougher seat covers to protect the original seats underneath, there's also a bit of utility that comes with them too. And finally, before I close the door on this segment, this item here, little accessory from a company in Australia called 70 Off-Road. That gives me a molly type setup to be able to fix a fire extinguisher on. Always useful to have a fire extinguisher accessible from the cab, I think. It also closes off that kind of ugly void underneath there as well, which is quite nice. But there you go. That's the cab and the interior mods. I do like Toyota cab and the dash, albeit still kind of retro 1970s 80 look and feel. It's altogether more utilitarian and modern than compared with the Defender one. In addition, the steering wheel is adjustable up and down. I think it'll even pull, I'm not sure about that, but you can adjust it perfectly for yourself. As standard, the seats go quite a long way back, and so if you're long in the leg like me, you know, automatically, without having to make modifications to the vehicle, you can sit in there quite comfortable irrespective of your height. And so I think that's a plus for these over the Defender as well. The other plus is that you've got a couple of extra inches between the seat and the door here, and with these one stone armrests with a drinks holder in, when you're driving along, you've got a very comfortable armrest and you're not feeling as though you're right hard up against the side of the vehicle. And in the event of a side impact, I guess having 2, 3, 4 extra inches and everything made out of steel just gives you a feeling of confidence and safety in the event of an accident. But there you go. Right, close the door on this part of the video. What a stunning place. I said when I filmed the walk around tour for my Snatch Land Rover in this location that it would be a great place to come camping. Absolutely it is, and at some point I'm going to have to scratch that itch and come and spend a night here. That is the first part of the walk around tour of this Land Cruiser 78 troop carrier. Quite a rare thing to find in the United Kingdom, also in Europe for that matter, and definitely the case in the United States. Owning one is quite a joy. I'm still firmly a Defender man. I love them. They do what they do perfectly, and in that respect they're a little bit like motorcycles. There's a Defender for every task, every purpose. But a Land Cruiser 78 Series troop carrier is quite an item. When you drive along in a Defender, then other Defender owners, they'll flash their lights, they'll wave at you, very friendly community. When you drive along in one of these, you don't get that quite so much from Defender drivers, hardly at all in fact, unless it's a very dedicated off-roader and then they recognise that you're into what they are, and you'll get a flash of the lights and a wave from those people. But interestingly, younger drivers in sportier cars, you know, they'll drive by with their thumbs up going, "Oh, that is cool." Oftentimes they'll slow down and beckon you to overtake them just so they can hear the sound of that V8 motor and that raughty exhaust. So that's quite good. And there isn't anywhere you can park this thing where people won't come up to you and engage in a conversation about it. You know, they're intrigued about what it is. They think it's in really good condition for its age, failing to realise that actually it was only built in 2024, and it's not a renovated 1970s vehicle. So that catches them by surprise. Of course, there are lots of people who know exactly what it is, and because you don't see very many of them in the UK, they just love to come over and have a chat. It's interesting actually, just recently I've had more subscribers as a result of people coming up to me and having a chat about it than I have from the videos I've uploaded on YouTube. How about that? So the trick is, I've learned, park outside Tesco's, let the missus do the shopping, leave the window open, you sit there for an hour and 2 or 3 people will come and have a chat. Tell them you've got a YouTube channel, and in the morning you've got an extra 2 or 3 subscribers. How about that? Anyway, it's a shame to be leaving the woods, but I intend to spend the night camped up by the River Wye. I'm going to put my mountain bike on the back, produce 2 videos from the one outing. One will be your fairly normal, today I have been mostly camping video, with a segment of mountain biking showing you some of the highlights from the Tintern Abbey area. Some very scenic views and historical points of interest there. So without further ado, I'm going to fire the beastie up and move on to the camping location. Thank you for watching until the end. Please like, hype and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you. If you found this video interesting, then take a look at my back catalogue, where you'll find the Troopy build video as well as my camping videos featured in the opening clips.